The Belgian Grand Prix had all the ingredients to deliver an unforgettable race: torrential rain, a legendary circuit, and a packed house of nearly 400,000 fans. But instead of giving us that edge-of-your-seat kind of thrill Spa is known for, we ended up with one of the most frustrating weekends in recent memory. And you're not alone in thinking that. Drivers, teams, and fans were left scratching their heads, wondering what went wrong, and most of those fingers are pointing straight at the FIA. Let's be honest, Spa usually means one thing: drama in the rain. And this time, everyone was bracing for it. Forecasts were clear: heavy downpours on race day. Yet somehow, we ended up watching laps behind a safety car, teams setting up for a rain race that never fully materialized, and strategies unraveling because of decisions made before the lights even went out. You could feel the disappointment in the air, and it wasn't just because of the weather. The trouble started early when race control decided to delay the start due to a heavy cloud passing over. Sure, that makes sense from a safety standpoint. But then came the confusion. Why were all teams forced into setups optimized for full wet conditions, only for the track to dry just enough to neutralize any real action? Bigger rear wings, higher downforce, all of it geared for a downpour that didn't align with what actually played out on the tarmac. What should have been a tactical challenge turned into a limp procession. And for a track like Spa, that's almost unforgivable. One of the few overtakes came from Oscar Piastri during the restart, and Lewis Hamilton gave us a glimpse of magic. But beyond that, not much to write home about. The fans who showed up in the rain and the millions watching from home were left with a race that felt like it never really got going. Now I want to know, did you feel the same way? Drop a comment and let's talk about it. Was Spa 2025 a letdown for you, or do you think the FIA handled it the best? They could? Just hit the comments with a simple yes or no. And hey, if you're enjoying this kind of F1 coverage where we dive deep and speak directly to fans like you, then subscribe to our channel and enable the notification bell. Your subscription is very important to us. Help us grow and reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. We're building this together, one race at a time. Ready to dive deeper into what really caused this disaster at Spa? Because the next big problem has everything to do with tires and zero trust. Here's where things get really interesting and honestly, kind of frustrating. Let's talk about the wet tires. You know, those full wet blue stripe tires that are specifically designed for exactly the kind of conditions we saw at Spa. And yet, no one uses them. Not seriously. Not when it actually matters. Instead, every single driver rolled out on intermediates, even though the track was soaked. That should tell you everything you need to know about how little faith the teams have in those tires. It's wild, right? Formula One has this tool in the kit, a tire meant for extreme rain. But teams avoid it like the plague. Why? Because the performance gap is massive, the degradation is unpredictable, and the visibility? Still terrible. And that's a problem. When conditions are as wet as they were at Spa, intermediates just aren't the answer. They're meant for mixed conditions, not full aquaplaning, puddle-filled laps behind a safety car. But because the blue wets are so ineffective, the teams gamble on inters and hope for the best. Now think about that. The FIA expects safe racing in heavy rain, but teams won't use the one tire designed for it. That mismatch is a ticking time bomb for races like this. And honestly, it's a big part of why Spa became a safety car parade. The FIA delayed the start, hoping the track would dry just enough for intermediate conditions, and they got exactly that. But it killed the race in the process. The issue goes deeper than just Spa. It's a trend, and it's getting worse. The sport has reached a point where wet tires only exist in theory, not practice. And that needs to change, fast. Because if you can't race in the rain, at tracks where rain is expected almost every year like Spa, then what's the point of even showing up with wet rubber? So here's my question to you. Should the FIA force teams to actually run the full wets in extreme rain? Or should they scrap them entirely and come up with a new solution? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to see where fans like you stand on this issue. And if this kind of no-fluff, straight-talking F1 coverage is your thing, go ahead and like this video. It helps a ton. Plus, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on so you never miss the real story behind every race. We've got a lot more to break down. And up next, it's time to hear from Max Verstappen himself, because he had plenty to say. Max Verstappen didn't mince words. And honestly, who can blame him? After what happened in Spa, the reigning champion made it clear he's had enough of the overcautious approach from race control. During the post-race interviews, Max dropped a line that really stuck with fans. They are way too cautious now. And that's not just him venting. It's a real sentiment shared by several drivers in the paddock who feel like their voices are getting drowned out by red tape and risk management. Let's rewind a bit. 4 laps behind the safety car. No proper racing until the track was nearly dry. And all of this in a sport that was built on pushing limits. Verstappen's frustration wasn't just about Spa. It was about what this kind of decision-making is doing to Formula One as a whole. He even pointed out how delaying the start just led to further delays and stripped the race of any real drama. And if someone like Max, who thrives in the rain and usually dominates in these conditions, is getting boxed in by regulations, you know there's a serious issue. He wasn't alone either. Other drivers have quietly echoed the same concerns. The safety-first approach, while understandable given recent tragedies, is beginning to feel like it's suffocating the racing spirit. Let's be clear. No one is asking to put lives at risk. But there's a fine line between protecting drivers and neutering the competition entirely. These are elite athletes in the most advanced racing machines on Earth. If they can't be trusted to judge what's safe once the worst of the weather clears, who can? What happened to letting the race unfold naturally? What happened to letting drivers show who's got the skill to handle chaos? Hamilton, Schumacher, Senna. These guys built legacies on gutsy performances in the rain. Spa could have been one of those moments, another chapter in F1's storied love affair with unpredictable weather. Instead, we got safety cars, cautious calls, and more frustration than flair. So here's what I want to ask you. Do you think Max is right? Has the FIA become too cautious in recent years, or is this just part of modern F1? Drop your take in the comments below, and let's open this one up for debate. And if you're not subscribed yet, now's the time. We're creating a space where real F1 fans can talk openly about the sport. No filters. Subscribe to Fast News F1 and enable that notification bell so you don't miss a beat. Up next, we're going even deeper. Has Formula One lost its edge trying to be too safe? Let's get into it. Let's face it, Formula One has always lived on the edge. That tension between risk and reward, between control and chaos, is part of what made it the pinnacle of motorsport. But after Spa 2025, you've got to ask, is that edge being dulled by an overly cautious FIA? Sure, no one wants to see accidents or tragic outcomes, but have the governing bodies swung the pendulum too far towards safety at the expense of real racing? Look, nobody's denying the importance of safety. The deaths of Antoine Hubert in 2019 and Delano Van Tiehoff in 2023 are heartbreaking reminders of how dangerous this sport can be. But since then, it feels like every race director decision in wet weather is made with one goal: avoiding liability. That sounds smart in theory, until it starts choking the very DNA of Formula One. Spa was the latest example of a pattern that's been creeping in for years. Delay after delay, multiple laps behind the safety car, zero encouragement to actually race in challenging conditions. And now, we've reached a point where wet races, once the most anticipated part of a Grand Prix weekend, have become something fans dread. That's a massive shift. Think back to 2008, when Lewis Hamilton delivered that chaotic win in changeable conditions, or how Michael Schumacher and Ayrton Senna became legends in the wet. Those moments defined them. today? We're lucky if we even get a green flag. It's not just frustrating for the fans, it's frustrating for the drivers too. These are the best racers in the world, trained to deal with extreme conditions. They've spoken out saying they're ready to drive when the worst has passed, but their confidence doesn't seem to be matched by the rule makers. The result? A watered-down version of what F1 is supposed to be. And here's the thing. Slow, careful racing isn't always bad. But no racing at all? That's the real problem. Especially when it's born from hesitation, not necessity. If visibility is still a concern, that's valid. But when drivers are saying it's manageable and they're still being held back, it starts to feel less like safety and more like overreach. So here's something I'd love for you to weigh in on. Has F1 lost some of its fire by becoming too risk-averse? Or is this just the natural evolution of a sport growing more conscious of driver well-being? Drop a comment and let's really get into this one. Also, if you're enjoying this kind of conversation, the stuff that goes deeper than just results and podiums, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Your subscription is super important to us, and it'll help us reach our goal of 1,000 fans who love talking F1 just like you do. Now, in the final part of this video, we need to talk about Spa's future, and whether races like this are putting one of F1's most iconic tracks at risk. Stick around. Now, here's the real kicker. What does all of this mean for the future of Spa? Because if we're being honest, this wasn't just a bad weekend. This could actually affect whether the Belgian Grand Prix even stays on the F1 calendar moving forward. That's how serious the fallout might be. Spa has always walked a tightrope, fighting for its place year after year due to financial issues, infrastructure demands, and now, weather. Yep, the very thing that made Spa legendary, the unpredictability, the challenge, the rain, is now becoming a liability in the eyes of some within the sport. And after what we just witnessed, with fans tuning out and drivers getting frustrated, you can bet that the conversation around Spa's contract extension will include more than just money. It'll include questions like, can this track still host a modern F1 race under current FIA protocols? But here's the thing. Spa isn't just another stop on the calendar. It's an icon, a cornerstone of real racing history, and it should be a permanent fixture. The rain, the danger, the elevation, the pure speed. It's all part of what makes it special. But that only works if F1 is willing to embrace what makes Spa, Spa. If every future race here gets neutralized by delays and endless safety car laps, then what are we even doing? The issue goes beyond Belgium. Hungary is next, and early reports already suggest rain might be in the mix. If the same cautious approach shows up again, what happens then? Will the fans still tune in? Will the drivers still trust the process? F1 can't afford to make a habit out of these rain delays and watered-down strategies. There needs to be a solution, and it starts with rebuilding trust in the tools they already have, like the wet tires, and listening to the drivers who are actually in the cockpit. And here's where you come in. Should Spa stay on the calendar no matter what? Or has it become too much of a headache in this new safety-first era? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear your take. Passionate voices from real fans matter, especially when iconic tracks are on the line. And if you haven't done so already, subscribe to Fast News F1 and turn on that notification bell. Help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers so we can keep bringing you deep dive F1 content that actually respects your time and your love for the sport. Before you go, I've got 2 quick questions. If it rains in Hungary this weekend, do you think the FIA will handle it better? Or are we in for a repeat of Spa? And would you prefer a doc file version of this script formatted for production? Just let me know. I've got it ready for you.